What's good, folks? Welcome to another edition of the Cover One Film Room, the show that gives you the hows and the whys behind both the good and the bad of the Buffalo Bills. I am one of your two hosts, Anthony Prohaska, joined as always by Eric Turner and Eric. Ooh boy,
Yeah.
goodness gracious, we have quite the episode on deck for the folks with this one after the Bills came off a very disappointing loss this past Thursday in Houston to the Houston Texans. And, we just kind of said this, in the green room before we went live. This episode, obviously, we're going to be talking about what happened in that Texans game, especially on the offensive side of the ball, but a bit on the
Mhm.
defensive side as well. But this episode is not just a, micro focus. This is what went wrong in the Houston game. It is to a degree, but it's also kind of putting that it's on the landscape or the
Yeah.
backdrop of the bigger picture of what this Bills team is, what they have been, and what that potentially means for this season as a whole, previously, currently, and going forward.
Yeah, that's a great lead there. The play calling, we're going to talk about that overall and specifically in the Texans game, the pass protection issues overall and how it applied to this Texans game and why the game plan, knowing all of this stuff going in, the game plan should have been different, as I think everyone noticed. And then on the defensive side of the ball, we're going to talk about the Bills pass rush and lack thereof, how injuries have played a factor in there. Especially if you're talking Joey Bosa, we'll talk about some of his numbers and stats and stuff. But overall, yeah, it's a show that we're going to talk about big picture stuff, but we're going to show you with some of the film how that big picture stuff kind of played out versus the Texans and why it's not going to get any easier next week against the Steelers.
Just good times, good times. Eric, overall, coming out of this Texans game, knowing what this Bills team has been, what they could be, going forward, but I think really, kind of the lead up into this game and then coming out of it, what's your temperature check on this Bills team right now with, is it a specific side of the ball? Is it them holistically? I think there's so many pain points for so many fans, depending on where you lean. It could be the offense. Some people are focused solely on Allen. Some people are focused
Yeah.
on Brady. Some people are focused more on the defensive side. Some people are going higher and it's a Brandon Bean issue and a scouting issue, roster building, or it's a McDermott issue. Where do you kind of land on that spectrum of where this team is, what they are right now, and just especially coming out of that Texans game, but
Yeah.
alongside the backdrop of this season?
I think right here kind of explains where I'm at.
That's good.
My belief has definitely taken a hit. It has. And, when we talk about this offense and the quarterback at the helm, they should be better. They should be more consistent. Their identity should be established, and they should be able to pivot to that identity when needed. And they are in trouble. I do believe they're in trouble because of that lack of consistency, especially if we're talking the offensive side of the ball. Defensive side of the ball, they come out flat. They come out, really, really flat, actually. And then, especially you're talking the game against the Texans, but then they make adjustments. And I can't say the same about Joe Brady. Joe Brady approaches his game plans a little differently. I refer to it as he plays the hits. He runs the hits, he passes the hits, and more times than not, his variations of those hits are just putting a different player in a different slot and trying to run the same thing and running it often. And my issue with that is the hits are good, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. The hits are good. It's a structured offense. It's almost what I said a few weeks ago, almost too structured at times.
Yeah.
But in those high leverage situations, in those third and fourth downs, you can't be playing the hits because the defenses that you go against see the hits on the early downs, first and second downs, your base concepts far too often. And that is what they're, practicing during the week. And so Joe Brady needs to do a better job of scheming third downs versus opposing defenses rather than just playing the hits. On defense, again, they make pretty good adjustments. You just like to see them make it, in the second quarter and the second or third drive of the game.
Yeah, that's very fair. I think that's so well said, especially on, both sides, especially on the offensive side. Like you can't play the hits as like your drive starter and your high leverage stuff and your feel good stuff and your in between stuff. It's like it's too much of it. And then, as we've talked about in previous episodes, the way it gets dressed up, the presentation aspects, talking about personnel, alignment, formation, those are kind of tendencies and tells. And then the situation on top of it, and it kind of all compounds and, boils up. And I wanted to ask you that because going into watching this tape and even coming out of it, I've said this before. I've said mainly on Disguise coverage, like when 13 seconds happened, a large part of me died. And not even jokingly, but between that and then just all the work we do and how much focuses on schematically of what we do with our content and how much league wide tape I watch, I've just it takes a lot for me to get upset with the Bills because I can appreciate schematic things the other team is doing and I just put it in the logical X's and O's backdrop. But I found myself like I was angry after Thursday night. Like I was just really frustrated with, and I think a lot of it stems from what we do on this show and some of the work we do because it forecasting so many of these struggles and issues in the offseason and then seeing so many of them come to fruition or being able
Yeah.
to ID certain things and seeing those things come to fruition and seeing them just be stuck in the mud offensively and then defensively adjusting but a little too late and how everything builds and compounds and is interconnected and there's so many chicken or egg scenarios or kind of like a dog chasing its tail type of deal.
Hmm.
And yeah, I still don't think, I say all that to say I still don't think the season is over for the Bills. But I found myself frustrated in a way that I didn't think I could get to again because I thought I was dead inside with this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just came out of this game like really frustrated for a lot of the things in terms of what this team is philosophically, identity wise, but also all the breadcrumbs that have led up to these struggles we've seen. And I found myself really frustrated.
Yeah, and that's again, we start on the offensive side of the ball, and that's the conversation at hand because, like a lot of people are saying in the chat room, there's a certain level of predictability that you're seeing with the offense, and let's be honest too, Ant. Like we watch a lot of other offenses around the league. Everyone runs the same plays.
Yes.
Everyone runs the same plays. There's some different eye candy setups, alignments, splits, some different things to get to where they're going. But concept wise, everyone runs mesh. Literally every offense has mesh
Yes.
in their playbook. Every offense has the double China 7 we talk about. They have the hang concept, the spot variations, option concepts, just like the Bills run. And on my personal account at Eric J. Turner, I have over the last 2 years shown these concepts that the Bills run, several times a game. And in this game, we all know mesh was probably number one. In prior games, usually I'd say the percentages were in favor of double China 7, but in this
Yes.
game, mesh was the big one. We're going to see it several times in the film room, but everyone runs these plays. And there are different, again, ways to get to those plays. And the issue with Joe Brady is he's not getting to those plays with different looks, different alignments. And what he tries to do, his variation to these plays is just, again, taking, a different player and putting it in that slot of, okay, we like to get the ball, on one of these crossing routes in mesh, get some speed there. We're going to put someone else there and maybe, the defense plays it differently and we get the matchup we want, yada, yada, yada. But you're seeing that, take place, and defenses are just playing alignments. They're playing, hey, you're in a, 3-by-1, you're in a 4 strong in a high leverage situation, pretty good chance you're going to see mesh on this play. And so they're just playing it. We had that conversation about, defenses really just going to base, no matter what the Bills are in on early on, that conversation in much the same way. Defenses are going to certain coverages and looks versus the 3-by-1s, the 2-by-2s, and they're aligning in that way to slow down the Bills offense. And like I said, the biggest issue I have, it's not the play calls, it's not the concepts, it's the timing of them. You can do that on early downs to stay ahead of the chains and ahead of the sticks. You can't use those plays in high leverage situations because that's what the defense practices all week and they're used to seeing it.
Yeah, and you're really seeing that, and not that especially the Texans, not that these like opposing defenses aren't well coached, and that they're not scouting well, and that the Bills are making it too easy. But you're seeing the Texans game was a good example, but you've seen it before that as well, especially with a lot of the run game stuff. You're seeing defenders like hand signals and eyes and movements pre-snap that are kind of like, it looks like they know what's coming. Or in the Texans example, on a lot of the mesh stuff, and again, they're very well coached and they've got good players, their pass offs were just seamless because, to your point, like you kind of know, like, what down is it? It's third down and this is the distance. Oh, and they're in this. Okay, here comes mesh. The communication, it was just flawless. It was seamless. And it's that situational element tied with, again, everything. Because I said it earlier, and I've said it in previous episodes, it all compounds. If you know, okay, if they're in shotgun, that means this percentage of the time they're going to throw the ball. Okay, now they're in a 3-by-1. That means we can narrow it down to probably, this bucket of concepts. But then also knowing the situation, knowing who's in what spot, we can kind of narrow it down to these ones. And then everything you start to play, not to make it too numbers based, but you start to play the odds and percentages, and the odds and percentages are coming in favor of the defense, and it all compounds and builds and snowballs to this giant ball of predictability. And it starts, to your point, with that idea of their concepts and what they run just being used in high leverage situations, but also like the drive starter pieces, everything. It's just when you use it that much, it only adds to the tendency. It only adds to the tells and the telegraphing, and they're not really doing much to get away from it. And then you don't have the individual players within that where you can just be like, we can be predictable because good luck dealing with so-and-so and so-and-so.
Yeah.
And that's part of it as well. And it all just builds.
And if you're speaking of predictability, I do think one thing that is kind of going under the radar, and one coach that maybe he needs to be analyzed a little more, criticized a little more, is Aaron Cromer and his pass protection. Because with formations, 3-by-1, 2-by-2, teams like to protect a certain way. And we're going to show you this in the film. And so, there are certain protections because of maybe you have a running back in, where that running back is in a 3-by-1 versus a 2-by-2, and only certain ways, a limited amount of ways you can block up protections. And so one thing that has been under duress, especially in this Texans game, as we'll show, have been their pass protections. And in this game, obviously Danielle Hunter and Anderson Jr., they ate. But overall, that entire defense, they were active with hands and feet. They attacked the line of scrimmage. They attacked the blocks. They destroyed blocks in many ways.
Their block deconstruction, the shock, the shed, everything was just beautiful. The violence and the coordination.
Yeah, and so one thing that has really come into focus here is how often the Bills are in 5-man pass protections. Across the league, they're number 1 in sending 5 guys out into a route. And of course, this was important in this game because, they needed help blocking, whether it was pre or post injury to Brown.
Yeah.
The Bills still sent out 5 into a route, which means 5 blockers stayed in 90% of the time in this game. 90.3%, Anthony. 5 guys were going into a route. Only 5 guys were staying in with no help. That was above their season average of 83.1%. And I'll say this by, the Bills, they're number 1 in sending, the amount of guys into a route. And I think it's the structure of the offense. We'll talk about that in a second. But there are some good things about it for them because their throw EPA in those situations when they send 5 eligibles out, 4th overall, EPA per play, 7th overall. But what we saw in this game is really where you're starting to, and even the Falcons game for that matter, is the sack percentage in those situations is ranked 4th overall. 24 out of 28 of those sacks taken this year have been in 5-man protections. And if you look at it by down, again, these are filter. Sacks by down in 5-man pass protections, 4 on first down, 6 on second down, and then 14 on third down. 21.2% sack rate on third down when the Bills only keep 5 guys in the block. So again, that's just 5 offensive linemen. One-on-ones a lot of the time, maybe some help. We'll talk about some of the issues that they're seeing. We've talked about it before with the load front, some of the issues that we're still seeing there. But overall, man, this is their offense, getting 5 out into a route. And I think it's their way of overcompensating or compensating, however you want to look at it, for the lack of talent outside.
Yeah, I personally think that's exactly it as well. If you're consistently getting out 5 into the route distribution, you have, in theory, a better opportunity to maximize space, whether that's horizontally or vertically. You get the option of, maybe you catch someone at times. I mean, we've even gone back. Well, this is not necessarily under Brady, but we've seen it a couple times, like in the past couple of years as well under him, where instead of, having the running back in, stay into block, here comes the blitz. We're just hitting that, the running back on the flare right out of the backfield. The defense is caught out. So it can give you the numbers opportunity. And I get the idea of it. And especially too, if your 5 are blocking well, like the Bills have a good offensive line. We talked about it throughout the year in the offseason. They have a good group. This game, what was just so frustrating with it is not dialing it down a bit. And I will say, in watching the tape, there were more chips than I thought, or like the tight end delay, a little
A
chip.
jam. Yeah. The
Yes.
jam is a little different
Yes.
than a chip. So a
1000%.
jam is essentially a tight end. He has a DN over him or near him, and he kind of slows him up and then just not necessarily even like chips him into the tackle. He slows him up so the tackle can kick out wide to help him. A jam, more times than not, is when like, hey, the tight end or the running back is just slightly outside the DN, and you'll see him bump him over the tackle. And a lot of times that actually screws up the protection. But overall, you're right. I think there was like 2 or 3 of those jams, but a lot of times it was just tight ends and running backs releasing.
Yep. And you're getting everybody out into the route distribution. And again, I get it. Maximize your options in the pass game. Let Allen do his thing. But in this one, yeah, just not dialing it back, especially seeing how, I mean, you're already facing one of the best, if not the best edge rushing tandem in football with Hunter and Anderson. They're just monsters.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, Spencer Brown's playing with one arm. There's multiple drives where Anderson gets a sack or Brown goes down, and you could see Brown coming up and just holding his arm. His arm is dead. And so there were 3 drives in a row where I was like, well, okay, so Brown's done. And he kept coming back out, and Anderson kept beating him right around the arc because Brown can't use his arm. And that got me more hot, almost more than anything, because not only like, okay, you're struggling in 5-man, maybe let's do some things different to slow down this rush and help out your line, even if everybody was healthy. But clearly one of your dudes is playing with one arm.
Right.
So you would think you would want to help him in that regard, or get him out and then still give some help to Vandermark because he's not suited to deal with those guys either. That one really threw me for a loop, like the lack of change. I understand coming into it and being like, okay, this is who we are, because this is what they are. They're a 5-man protection team. Cool, got it, understood. But you got to be able to pivot to... It made me think back to like when the pass game wasn't working with Dorsey, and it'd be like, run the ball. You just need to run the ball. And he wouldn't pivot. And it was clear to everyone to run the ball. And same thing here. Like, you got to do something else. You can't just stick in 5-man. You got a wounded duck out there. Help him. And even if he's out of backups in there, that one really threw me for a loop. And the fact that this game was higher percentage-wise than their yearly, like you mentioned, it sends me to the moon.
28 out of their 31 dropbacks to pass were 5-man protections.
It's crazy.
7 of their 8 sacks were 5-man protections. And like you said, given everything that unfolded in that game, right off the snap, I mean, you saw the edge player, I think it was Anderson on that play, dive inside, and Josh got outside of the pocket. Like, immediately, Josh was under duress in this game.
Yes.
He was under pressure. And like I said, grand scheme offense-wise, I get it, especially because of the lack of weapons outside. You're trying to, with the 5-man protections, get 5 eligibles out, stress them horizontally and vertically.
You want to win with quantity instead of quality, no disrespect.
Right, and get the spacing, the proper spacing. We talked about how much more zone, they're seeing on that side of the ball. And it gives Josh clearer reads, kind of like when they put him in empty. It's everything's spread out. It kind of works in his favor, getting the ball out quickly. And can help, again, versus those zone defense. But it does put a lot of stress on the offensive linemen, even without injuries. And the Bills have a great offensive line, top 10 tackles outside, and those guys were just worked. Deion Dawkins was even shaken up in this game with what looked like a concussion almost. Like he got knocked a little bit. He was off his game. Spencer Brown, as you said, could barely like lift his hand up properly to punch and keep the outside, that protect that outside hip. It just didn't make sense for them to not chip and keep guys in to help, to help the offensive line, which then puts all the stress, not just on the offensive line, it puts it on the shoulder of the quarterback to win, right? It puts it on him to win in structure, off platform, knowing that the teams are coming after him and winning consistently with their pass rush. It's really put on his shoulders to either process quickly within scheme or get outside, off platform, outside of structure to make big plays for the offense.
And we've seen struggles with that this year with setting the protection. And how many discussions have we had in this episode, because we've had to clarify, okay, this is what the protection should have been. Allen should have been hot off this guy. He wasn't, or he was. Where's the disconnect? Is it on the line? Is it on Allen? Who set this? So even in that regard, like, that's another example of how things can go sideways for you. But it wasn't even that in this Houston game. It literally was, they were just going to rush 4 and eat. And the 5 into the route distribution helps the Bills a lot. Like, the ability to drain coverage. And that's why people see like, hey, James Cook is wide open underneath for this check down, because you've got defenders getting pulled in coverage and somebody leaks out, but then it leaves you vulnerable. And if your 5 aren't able to really go after it and get it, like they weren't in this game, you have to potentially do something different. And yeah, we did not see that in this one. Oh, we got a super chat here from Y Towns King. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for the super chat. He says, the Bills just look slow indoors to me. It seems like the other team are beating them to every spot on both sides of the ball. What do you think?
I don't even think that's just indoors. I do
I was gonna
think
say it's everywhere.
yeah, I think if you're comparing it to the Texans, yeah, that defense is fast. And there's a reason why they're not respecting the play action pass, because they can stay at depth and still come downhill at 100 miles an hour, make the tackle in the run game. They can still, without having to, again, come downhill to defend the run on a play action pass, they can still get deep. There weren't many times where, there were, things open behind that second level. That defense is fast. Yeah. And I do think the Bills offense is also slow, or at least average at that. And so I do think that it's, your statement's true, but I don't think it's just indoors.
That's fair. Yeah, offensively, I don't think they're a very speedy team, especially if Curtis Samuel's not in there. Like, if you have Moore and Samuel on the field at the same time, you up your speed element. But yeah, you're not this overly explosive, fast type of offense. And then again, especially when you're juxtaposing it with Houston, like Al-Shaair can fly, Henry To'oTo'o can fly, Lassiter flies, Stingley flies. Like even guys like Miles Bryant and Jalen Reed, who are the depth guys and the backups, like Jalen Petrie flies when he's in there. Bullock can fly. Like they're across the board. And then even on the other side too, like he mentions, I think, especially this year, Bernard playing on a bum wheel. Milano has lost a step a little bit. You've got Poyer and Rapp have been your safeties. Neither one of those guys are juice guys, especially more so for Poyer with the stage that he's at in his career. White's not a juice guy. Benford's not a juice guy. And then your whole defensive front is largely power and compression. So yeah, they're not this overly speedy, juiced up defense. I think, I think it's a fair point. I echo your statement. Yeah, I don't think it's not just indoors. It's everywhere.
And to tie it in to that 5-man protection thing and sending 5 out into a route, if you keep in 1 or 2 of those guys and you only have 3 guys going out, do they have the skill set to win versus a team like that? A top tier championship caliber defense, and that's a negative. That's a no. So that is part of the reasoning behind why Joe Brady sends out 5 into a route, because he does. He's essentially saying, I have a great offensive line. I may lose 15-20% of the reps overall in the pass game, but overall the structure of the offense is going to work its best because of the lack of talent on the outsides to spread the defense out, to help Josh with his vision and dink and dunk their way down the field. And we'll get into some of the stuff on third down later, the numbers there. But overall, let's get to the film. Let's get to look at some of these. And we're going to start off with
great mesh.
Yeah. Why is mesh the bane of our existence?
It's because we cursed it, because they were horrible at it under Dorsey. And all we wanted was a successful mesh every once in a while.
And they do, and they are successful at times with it, but now they just run it too much.
So much.
It just won't go away.
And it comes in, it's usually mesh rail, but you'll even get like the mesh, like the RB mesh traffic or slithers, Brady calls it. You'll get some just traditional mesh. Yeah, it's one of those things that once you realize it, you can't unsee it on the tape, and you realize how much it's just consistently happening. I also think, real quick, this one is a good example as well of last year. Allen was able to hit the rail to the running back so much, and defenses, you see EJ Speed at the top there playing over the top. You're getting that a lot this year. Really, from the get-go, teams are taking away the rail.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And so obviously early in the game, you get mesh, and I actually like how this develops. I wish that, Josh maybe took a shot to Palmer on the sit route right here.
He's there on the OTB.
Yeah, I wish he would have gotten to him. But you see him slide, and he kind of misses that window. I think Palmer's open, and I think Josh can make this strike there. I also like on the back end of this right here.
Moore,
yeah, really nice route. Again, it doesn't work, but more importantly, to me in the past, Josh is taking off. Josh is taking off and getting some yardage on this play. I understand it's third down here, but in years past, it seemed like Josh would have easily taken this after passing on Palmer, but he doesn't, and then he takes a big hit here, and he admitted after the game, Anthony, that his shoulder had gone numb, during the game here after this big hit. And I'm told that even at practice today, they were looking into some options to minimize or prevent that from happening again. So something to keep an eye on when it comes to him. I thought, dude, when Spencer Brown went over to him and then moved away and got on a knee, took his helmet off, I was worried that Josh was hurt for the rest of the season, not just this play.
Yeah, Allen's reaction, like the kicking of the feet on the ground, he looked like he was in some serious pain. And then Brown's reaction, my heart was in my throat. I was like, uh-oh, like he's done. But thankfully he was able to continue. Yeah, I'm in a similar like thought process with you here. Palmer's open. Allen's looking at him. Like, and I get that Allen's on the move, but slide, step up, throw it. He gets off that throw.
Yeah.
And then it looks like he's about to fire it to Moore. Like he sees Elijah Moore come open, is able to cross face of that single high safety, and he wants to pull it to Moore. But again, kudos to Will Anderson. Like this is one of the combine drills that came to life when you see the guys run around the hula hoop and just run around the circle. He runs the full arc. You have ankle flexion. You've got speed. This is just, he looks like a heat-seeking missile or a red shell in Mario.
Cheetah coming around the corner, man.
That's
what the
terrifying.
hell?
Yeah, like chasing some gazelle down on the plane. Like, absolutely terrifying. So kudos to him on that. But yeah, there was an option for Palmer. There was the option for Moore, but Allen's eyes were getting there late. And again, knowing the progression of this route, like you've got the rail, the shallow drag, and then Palmer is the 3. So I'm expecting him to be able to hit that. He doesn't, but that's a good point from you as well. Take off and run. I think that plays a good example of, I don't want to say the indecision, but it feels like Allen is caught in between things at times. And he's playing like skittish, not in like a scared, frantic way, but almost like he's second guessing and just not playing out there. It's like he's too much in his head.
Right. And this is a play that's a second down play in the red zone that was just god awful. I hate this play call, the low red zone, and this counts as a sack. But okay, this is your plan. Okay, so again, second down, your plan is a double move versus these corners. That is your plan, because after that double move, you see the little fake right there. He's faking it. Now he's looking to go deep. That's your plan against Stingley. Okay, it's again second and long. It's actually like second and 11 or 12.
Yeah.
What's next after this? What, you want him to throw this seam ball right here to Moore with Bullock driving
on that? Yeah.
There's a moment. There's a moment where maybe that's considered open, all relative to the Bills' offense and the receiver separating. But I just hate this play call. Why are you double moving one of the best corners in the NFL? And that's what leads to, in my opinion, a sack. I hate this play call. There weren't many play calls I liked in this. And this is one of the plays you're talking about with Knox here, where this is kind of that jam that slows him down. Well, this play, if I remember correctly, this is the first chip jam type play in this game, and this was in the second quarter already. And so it still even ended up in a sack. But again, this to me is more on the play concept, lack thereof, or just a bad plan on second and long by the Bills offense and Joe Brady here. And that really is what leads to the sack.
Yeah, I don't know why your primary is like, yeah, let's double move the second best corner in football and try and beat him. Like, and the only reason he's the second best corner, arguably, is because the guy who's first is the reigning defensive player of the year in Pat Surtain. Like, I just don't. Jimmy's and Joe's over X's and O's, whatever verbiage you want to go with. I'm not doing Josh Palmer on a double move against Stingley. No disrespect to Palmer. And then to your point, that's over. What else? Because you've gone for the double move, if you're talking,
you have to wait for that to develop, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The timing and the sequencing of the play, there's a shot with Moore, like you said, but that's dead and done because you had to wait for the double move to finish. So if your eyes do somehow get to the middle of the field, Bullock's going to close on that. So your only shot is to get it to Knox underneath or hope that Davis separates on Lassiter, which he doesn't. It's all just bad process. Maybe you want to get it to Cook at the end, at the bottom of the end of the progression and hit him on the angle route. I'm right there with you. Like, this play frustrated the hell out of me. I didn't understand, like, having that primary focus be on the double move for Palmer versus Stingley, and then the way how everything else ties in together from a timing perspective. And then you get, I guess, I don't know what's in players' head, but I don't know if Dawkins thought this play was over. Like, he kind of just chills on Anderson. It's like he thinks, oh, the ball came out. He's done. He just has the one hand. He literally lets up. Anderson almost looks like he thinks the play is over too, and then he gets the sack. But yeah, it starts with the concept and the initial idea. I was frustrated as hell with it.
Yeah, here's one that I thought Josh could have gotten rid of. It's kind of similar to what Beasley used to run. Just a little option route underneath. And they're again, look at they're playing off. They're kind of giving you the underneath stuff. See a little option route. Boom, he sits. The ball would like to come out, but Josh immediately hits the top of his drop. And he's like, I'm not throwing that no matter what. Fine. But you see the issue now that we're seeing week in and week out is teams are playing a lot of zone defense and they're kind of muddle rushing him where they're not really like shooting upfield past him, and they're realizing when he's going to take off. And you see that happen on this play. Again, hit the top of the drop, and you see the rusher out here say, you know what, Josh got to his depth. Now I'm just going to circle up the pocket and spin off of that to go get Josh for a minimal gain.
Yeah, just the way things kind of developed in this game. There's another one too. I think Allen gets a little, not completely skittish, but I think he sees the was it Rankins there, number 90, kind of starting to get inside penetration against Torrance, and I think he sees that flash of color, feels it, and is just like, let me get out, let me take off. He's, I guess, decisive in it, which is good. But then you get the retrace from Hunter on the outside, who sees it, spins back upfield, meets Allen. You get pursuit from the Texans, and again, everything kind of just coalescing into one, and how things compound and build and lead into the result that we get and the breadcrumbs that we pick up.
Right. And here's a play that I tagged as just basically no one open. It's essentially a seam read right here to Shakir. And the Bills have done this a lot this year, especially in situations where like, hey, they're having struggles to get people open because Shakir can get open. And that kind of gives him the options to work over the middle of the field. But once again, just a play that Josh is under duress. He's trying to make a play and is unable to here. And honestly, it's like one of those players, like just throw it away. But I want to show you not just that no one was open, but I want to look at the pass protection here. And it's something that we're seeing a bunch of. It's something that we've talked about with Connor McGovern. It's something we brought up a few weeks ago with the load front against the Falcons. You're seeing the same thing here. So you're getting a load front. So 3 off the right side. You have 1 edge defender to the left. And then what you see Edwards doing there is calling out. He's going to have El Shair right there in protection. And the issue I have with this is it's essentially calling this or creating a man protection scheme here. So watch what Edwards does. He jumps that spy or a guy that's actually covering the running back. It's a spy later. You see him jump him. And so now essentially think about what you're getting now with him going and chasing this guy. Now you have one-on-ones across the board. And again, you have 4-on-4. And you have guys that a team that loves to run stunts, has speed. That just creates so much stress on the offensive line on these games versus speed and talent. And you can see that they are able to win and disrupt the timing of the play. And Josh is out there running for his life on this play.
Yeah, I love that this is, we're talking about this in this episode because we've seen it a couple times throughout the year, but we saw it a bunch in this game. You see it from Torrance, you see it from Edwards, where they meet that spy, change the level, and then it's 4-on-4. You don't get that helper. You don't get the nice proverbial things where it's like, oh, so-and-so finds work and helps with this guy or helps with that. And against a front that is just teeing off on you and against guys that maybe aren't at 100%, this is even more of a death sentence here, just based off of the initial idea, design, structure, however you want to label it. And then Allen's sitting here running for his life. Anderson eventually gets him down. And then what's also keyed in too, if you go to the wide angle on this play, is you highlighted like no one being open. This is blanketed right there. That's such a perfect stop and still. You've got Lassiter at the bottom of the screen, one-on-one. Right at about the 43-yard line is Miles Bryant on Khalil Shakir. And then a little higher towards the sideline, top of the screen there at the 42. It's Stingley underneath on Josh Palmer. And then you've got the tight end clamped. You even got somebody on the back coming out of the backfield. Like there is absolutely nowhere to go. You get a little separation on the scramble drill, but Allen is in full evade mode. So it's not like he can turn his hips and make a throw to Shakir, who eventually separated. It's just, again, a culmination of things. You get, the protection plan falling, the horses you're going against, no separation on the back end and anybody winning. and you're just left for Allen trying to run for his life.
Right. And here's a play with the Bills almost backed up where again, the concept is not the best. Do I think there's a quick play right here to Shakir? Yeah, I think there's a decent option here on third down. But again, the margins, and we've seen this play before. I always go back to the Patriots game a couple of years ago. They used to run this a bunch. And this is honestly, this is some of that switch route, concept stuff that we're talking about, those option concepts. That's Gabe Davis up the numbers, kind of, getting into Stingley and making this guy go over the top. And something Gabe actually, I know he got called, late in the game for that, but he did a good job of, and that's really what he brings, kind of that Mac Hollins role. But I could argue that maybe Shakir's open, but either way, Brown gets taken to the woodshed on an inside spin move. And again, when you have those, as we say at covering, those velociraptors that can attack the quarterback, it's tough for Josh Allen to get to a second or third progression when those guys are hunting like this.
Yeah, this was so pretty from Danielle Hunter. Just nasty spin move. And you even get on the interior too. Like Torrance absolutely chucks the hell out of his man.
Yeah.
But it kind of works against the Bills because they're running a little twist inside. So the chuck, first of all, the dude who gets chucked ricochets and still manages to crawl on the ground. I think that's Derek Barnett.
At his feet, yeah.
Yeah, he still manages to crawl and puts forth a great effort to try and get to Allen. But yeah, McGovern's on the ground because
knocked out.
Yeah, because
knocked out.
Torrance chucked Barnett so hard, he took out McGovern, and then Hunter leaps Barnett on the ground and gets Allen down. Like, it's just such a mess up front. Bodies are dropping because of what Houston's doing and what the Bills are doing to themselves. Oh, it's so ironic of how much their front four dominated, because this is what Sean McDermott wants from his defense. Like, this is what he wants from his defensive line. And it's so painful that it's got to be so painful for him to see this, have it happen, and just him being like, I want this.
I know, right? And this is something we wanted with, play actions, especially on early downs. And, this is what Brady talked about when you keep guys in to block, when you keep a tight end or running backs in. So you get that counter action, play action here type of look, and you're keeping Hawes in right here. You're keeping Gilliam in. I want you to watch what happens. It's what we call an add-on blitz or hug rush. So you see that linebacker just go, okay, well, if Hawes is staying in, guess what I can do? I can hunt. I can go get the quarterback. So Josh isn't even able to set up, the pass down the field, which, again, you could argue there's not even open no matter what. But, again, look at that coverage. There's just no one open. Everyone's covered. So this is kind of the drawback when we talk about 5-man protections, keeping guys in. This is kind of that drawback that, hey, yeah, you can run play action, keep guys in, but you also got to expect that, hey, maybe those guys that are covering the tight ends or running backs or fullbacks can now insert as pass rushers. And now you're just inviting the blitz naturally because you're keeping guys in the block.
Yeah, great call. I don't have much to add other than this play action is based off of, kind of their blast counter concept, which I really like. But Houston, aside from the big play, which was the James Cook house call to start the game, Houston was all over this action. Like, Kamari Lassiter was meeting Reggie Gilliam, and
that was the thing, right? They were blitzing the corner pretty much. I think they ran this 6 times. Every play except for the run touchdown by Cook, they blitzed the corner. So again, that when we talk bad play calling and strategy, what call did they run on that 4th down and short? This counter action with a corner blitz, they've been blitzing pretty much the entire game. Just bad coaching altogether.
Yeah, this is one of the few times where that blitzing corner, this time it's, Stingley coming from the field. Majority of the time, including that 4th down, it was Lassiter. And again, the Bills, we talked about in previous episodes, so I don't want to get too hung up on it, but usually when the Bills are in that, it could be 21 or 22, offset or strong eye with Gilliam, and Hawes is, a little off the line so he can come across on the blast. It's usually, anytime they're in that before the blast even occurs, it's going to end up being that counterplay. And it seemed like Houston was keyed into it.
Yep.
They blitz. Allen's back is turned to the play action. Stingley's coming around from the outside. Really good job by Stingley kind of dipping and forcing Allen to step up. He takes Gilliam. Toto was there to get the sack. They were just so keyed in on that action, and they were sending dudes. This time it ends up being play action. You get the hug rush and it works. But even when it was actually the run and not play action pass, they were all over and just meeting that blast counter where it was about to go.
Right. And so we fast forward a little bit. You get 2-by-2 set here. At this point, you have Spencer Brown injured, Deion Dawkins. I want you to watch him top of the screen and kind of the technique he uses. But just look at the concept. It's essentially all verticals. All right. All verticals, 5-man protection here. And that this again, with this second down play call, this is just saying, okay, Josh, go make something happen. This is, the epitome of a lot of people have been talking about, hey, there's too much on Josh's shoulders. This is one of those plays, and you see Brown get beat out wide. You see him grab at his arm or shoulder.
Yep.
Deion Dawkins gets beat, and I want you to look at it from the end zone angle and what Dawkins is doing. It's something that he did a bunch this game. It's an old technique that I've broken down at Cover One. It's called the chase down technique. So instead of kind of getting right out here in a 45-degree angle, what they do is it's old Howard Mudd technique where chase down. So he's basically going to get out to a spot and go shake his hand, is what Mudd used to say. Go out there and meet him out wide so that you can set the width of the pocket. You see him do that here. And this is not the type of set Dawkins runs a bunch, but he ran it several times in this game. But it worked against him here because now all of his momentum is kind of, fading up the field here. And now you get a spin move back inside because there's such a gap because the offensive linemen are on different levels. And he is able to get by Dawkins. You see him, Dawkins like, get back here. Man. And ends up getting the sack. Derek Barnett, again, from the Texans.
Yeah, really nice move from Barnett. I wonder with this one, too, if he predetermined this move, like I'm going to set him with the spin, knowing how wide I am, or if he felt this and just because he used the momentum so well, you get that upfield push and then bang, just snaps it back inside. Decent ice pick right in the middle of Dawkins's back, right at the top of the 7 and the 3 on his back of his jersey, gets through. And yeah, Brown's left there holding his arm. It's funny is I can't even remember, like, because I've seen Brown holding his arm so many times in this game. I don't remember which time this is, which is annoying. And then as you have highlighted here, there's just nowhere to go. Like you can make a case cool if you want to throw the ball up and someone can run underneath it, or if it hangs a little bit, you get a DPI, some kind of something to do. But there's nothing where if you're the quarterback here, you're like, oh, cool, I'm confident in pulling this. Like there's nobody hit there for anything.
It was like that, a majority of the game. Here's another play. Again, I don't like the concept here, and it's mesh. Again, you have Brown injured. And Josh, it looks like he alerts to it. So basically he puts it on him. They run mesh out of 4 strong. And if you guys remember what happened on this play, Josh gets rid of it, luckily. But I want you to, once again, look at the protection from the end zone angle. Again, remember 5-man protections, how often the Bills were in it this game, 90.3%. Here's that. Again,
higher than their season average of 83.3, which is already extremely high.
Here's that load front. Here's your linebacker. You see Edwards calling out his man, Anderson off the edge. So now Edwards is responsible for Al-Shaair. Watch what happens after the snap, though. And this is happening a bunch where that defender, that linebacker, is actually spying Josh in a lot of ways. And so he's just spying and dropping out. Now, again, you're losing a helper. Yeah. You're losing a guy because he's chasing the spy. He quickly realizes, okay, that guy's not rushing like he was showing at the line of scrimmage. And now you get these one-on-ones when really you should have a guy in Edwards helping out here. Maybe he helps out McGovern. Maybe he can go help out the inside gap for Dawkins so that this guy can't dive inside. Well, what happens on this play is they run a little freestyle right here, and you see them get the edge on the Bills. And again, I hate how they are protecting this. And I do think Aaron Cromer is partially to blame here when it comes to this, because he's in charge of not just a run game, but the pass protection schemes.
Yeah. I really don't get how they just kept going to the well with this. Like you need like probably 7 blockers to deal with this 4, like let alone just going 4 on 4. You're straight. And that's such a good point too, because people see the 5-man protection thing and you think like, okay, like 5-man, but the 5-man here was really a 4-man for a good chunk. So it's not even like, 5 on 4. It's straight up 1-on-1 across the board. And, Rankins can do some stuff. Tim Settle can do some stuff. He's been a revelation in Houston, but they got Barnett doing things to line him up on the interior. And then you're still dealing with Hunter and Anderson on the edge. And you can see Spencer Brown like trying to do something with that right arm, but there's just no strength in that punch for him to deal with Hunter going around the
Yeah.
outside and running the arc. Like, he's leaning. There's no pop there. He's just kind of absorbing the rush and the contact from Hunter. Oh, and then Anderson taking that little hop step, trying to go through Dawkins. He pivots. Yeah, it's just, and you can even see Alshire too. He drops out and then takes
Yeah.
Knox away
Yeah.
on so Edwards is trying to pull back, but now there's Alshire highlighted perfectly. He sees the shallow drag coming from Dawson Knox. So there he goes. You get, and then I love you highlighted that on the back end, a real nice pass off or kind of switch on the back end between Bullock, who is the single high safety now, and then Jalen Reed, who is technically like their third or fourth safety. He's a rookie out of Penn State. He drops back to kind of get underneath or get in the way of the window if Gabe Davis comes inside on Miles Bryant. Again, another well-executed pass-off coverage on the back end, and then tied in with the front just being absolutely destructive and absolutely terrible.
This is what marrying the pass rush with coverage means. This is the epitome of that. This is the ability to not only affect the quarterback with four and scheming up how to attack those offensive linemen, but also, again, covering on the back end to get the quarterback to hold on to it, taking away the options with really nice pass offs by them.
Everything the Bills want to do, everything we want the Bills to do. This is so awesome for Houston and yet so painful.
Yeah. So we fast forward a little bit now, third down play here. Once again, Bills showing 4 eligibles to the bottom of the screen, and a play that there was really no one open. Very good defense once again. And one thing I noticed with Josh is in this game, he was taking his depth to 10 yards as far as drop back depth. And on 3 or 4 of those dropbacks, 4 dropbacks in this game reached 10 yards depth. And that's big when you're talking some of the speed that these guys have off the edge and the struggles that these tackles were having. And there were times where he gave up, I think 3 or 4 of his sacks were at a 10-yard depth. A lot of times it was when he was like running into plays like this. But that is something that, he hasn't done a lot of this year, or I'm sorry, in years past, especially last year, is getting too deep. It's something that Patrick Mahomes dealt with years ago and kind of rectified. And Josh last year was great at it. I think he only actually gave up 3 sacks where he was getting to 10-yard depth. Usually you want to be in that like 7.5 to 9-yard range. But you see here, there's no one open. He's getting a little too deep, and he's trying to create once again with 4 rushers. One of his offensive linemen is chasing a linebacker again, and they are able to hunt for the sack once again. And you can see it once again from the end zone angle here. Here's the one-on-ones created by this load front. I mean, we've talked about this for weeks now, guys. You get 5 across, and so David Edwards mans up his protection. He has Alshire, but you see Alshire once again drop out to the low hole. Now you have one-on-ones between the linemen and the pass rushers. And again, there's no one to help. There's no one helping these offensive linemen. It would be nice if, Edwards could stay in right here as he drops out. Maybe he stays in and he can help Connor McGovern, because what happens on this play is you see Josh look to get out of the pocket and you see those rushers come free. It's disappointing to see this happen, far too often with the Bills offensive line and the structure of their scheme, because it's something that is pretty easily rectified. Keep Edwards in. Don't have him account for a spy here. Yes, you have to account for that guy in the initial pass protection, because he could very well rush right off the bat. But if he's not, you want to keep him in protection. You want to have him be able to help everyone else so that your guys are not stressed in one-on-one situations. They're not able to. And once again, Josh is just going into creation mode, and there's nothing open. He's running around and he gets sacked by Hunter on this play. Just, it happens too much in this, in the season and in this game. And something that they got to get right. They got to get right. They got to change it, because we're seeing those load fronts. We're seeing the guards have to account for a linebacker or a spy, and it's really hurting them in protection, because it's getting the offensive line on different levels, because the 3 interior guys are working together to stop the D tackles. And then you're having your, again, very good top elite tackles on islands out wide. And I'm talking wide and deep, and it's getting guys at different levels. So when these stunts come, they're on different levels. They can't pass it off. It creates huge lanes for those stunts to get home like you've seen with some of the pass rushers that the Texans have. And it leads to big plays, negative plays in the Bills' favor. And we see this seam read once again from the Bills, and the Texans go ahead and rush 4, and they're able to get home once again. But it's just another one of those plays where they actually keep in Dawson Knox. He's not able to pick up anyone, but there's no one open down the field. There's no one open down the field. You see the seam read once again by Shakir in the slot. And it's another play where, he's kind of taken away underneath. Josh would have to anticipate it, throw it to this spot. You have the safety Bullock, who is absolutely driving on that route too. It's third down. Josh is going into creation mode. He's not able to make a play here, and he ends up taking a sack here. We'll see it from the end zone angle as well. Just a tough day where on a play that he really didn't have a chance overall in this game. Look at Dawkins. You see Hunter take that inside line as Dawkins kick sets out wide. Hunter takes that inside line, but again, he has no help here. Dawson is looking into the other direction. Vandermark's on an island by himself. He's giving up the outside edge. Josh is trying to get outside the pocket, but Hunter took that line to him. It's almost like they gamed this from the get-go. If I started over, you get the high side rush from Anderson, and then you get this little jab step outside and low side rush, the high-low rush by the Texans to get Josh off the spot initially. And as he, tries to make a play here, you have Hunter going ahead and cutting off that outside escape lane, and Josh taking the sack there. But in the end, Vandermark would have gotten a flag on that play too. So just disappointing, man. Just disappointing to see this kind of game plan. As one of the viewers says, what I don't understand from a game plan perspective, you're playing 2 top pass rushers, you're playing 2 top cornerbacks. They are a D built with speed. Why not negate that speed with 12 and 13 personnel? I mean, that's a very good point. The Bills could have gone to that a little more. But I also think, again, you're just inviting stacked boxes and things like that. And it's going to invite more guys into the box when you do run the ball. And then when they went to pass it out of those formations, you saw them add on rushers at times. And that really kind of came to backfire on just overall. They're a better unit than the Bills offense right now. They have more speed. They play with more physicality, and they struggled. The Bills struggled to separate when you're talking guys outside, obviously, something, again, that has been talked about all season long. And so as we move forward to the next play, it's, again, the bane of our existence, a mesh play here from a 4-strong set here. Bills are setting the protection. There you see it once again. Watch David Edwards as Josh calls a play. Watch, boom, taps his head. That means he has him in pass protection. And it's something, again, the Bills going to have to change. So as I let it roll here, watch how this unfolds. Again, very good coverage from the Texans. But I do think there's a play to be made here. This mesh concept, I do think Josh, has a chance to possibly hit someone, but it doesn't matter because of the pick here by Gabe here. And I don't even know if you can even see Knox, but I do think Knox was open. But you're seeing the route from Palmer go this way, but at the very last second, he kind of changes the depth of the route and tries going in behind the deep safety there. And you'll see what happens as he does that. That safety gets underneath as he's en route to Dawson Knox, and he's able to intercept that play. But again, I think this 4th down play comes back to protection. I think the issue with this play is the protection, not necessarily the play call on this. I do think there's an ability to get the ball out of Josh's hands, but if you're not protecting properly, Josh is going to feel that duress. There it is again. Load front, right? 3 on one side. Here's El-Shair. Here's Hunter. And so the Bills set up that man, essentially what becomes man protection. And that just sets up the plays where here's Edwards staying with El-Shair, who's a spy. Look at this game that they're running here on Josh. One-on-ones to the left. Again, look at those lanes. Look at those pass rush lanes. It's not good business for the Bills. And as good as offensive line is, and, has been for a majority of this year, this is putting too much stress on them. This is asking them to do too much, is asking Josh to do too much. to consistently have these one-on-ones, 4 guys protected, not even 5, and getting 5 into a route and having Josh have to process this quickly and put it into a spot under duress. It's a lot to ask of Josh. He's not able to pull the string here and make this play, and it goes the other way with the interception by Bullock. Just tough stuff. And I'd like to see the Bills just make some changes when it comes to this. So Charles asks, how do they adjust protection to account for these overload fronts? I'd assume Pitt will look at this film and attack in similar ways. Absolutely, they will, because they play kind of that odd front type looks on third downs. And so this is nothing new. I was told that defenses do this against the Bills a lot because of Josh Allen, to limit Josh Allen, to limit his escape lanes, his rushing lanes. But they also do it because they know Josh is going to be under duress because they're struggling here with picking up the protection, and they're not winning outside. And so that is the recipe right now, especially on third downs, to really overwhelm the Bills offense. And so, like I said, instead of having him chase El-Shaair, yes, you want Edwards to account for El-Shaair if he immediately rushes, right? If he immediately rushes, fine. Edwards will take him, and it's 5-on-5 across the board. But if he drops out like this, drop back into protection. Help your guys next to you. Again, look at what it does to McGovern. Now McGovern, again, this is man protection. There's no pass-offs happening here. This is man protection. So as this guy loops, McGovern is tasked with staying with him because, again, the offensive linemen are now on different levels. Dawkins and McGovern are on different levels. And so that is almost an impossible ask by the offensive lineman. And, again, it leads to that interception there by the Texans. And when I talk about third downs this year and how the Bills are struggling, especially in, when it comes to when opposing teams blitz, I want to bring up some of these numbers here. 1 second here. So look at this. On third downs this year, the Bills are struggling versus pressure. So here it is right here. Boom. So right now, after this game, on third downs, the Bills are blitzed 40.4% of the time. That's 4th overall. They are pressured 53.8% of the time. That's 32nd overall. The Bills' sack percentage on third downs this season, 16%, 32nd overall. Negative play percentage, 20.2%, 28th overall. So the Bills on third downs, they're just absolutely awful. And if you look at some of these stats through a different lens, a different filter, the Bills aren't forcing defenses to expand vertically down the field. Think about that. The Bills are throwing deep, only 8.9% on third downs this year. 2024 was 21.6%. 2023 was 19.5%. 20.7% is in 2022. And then 2021, 10.9%. And finally, 10.2% in 2020. So the Bills are throwing deep, the lowest percentage they have since 2020 when we're talking third downs. So again, now you're not getting the defense to expand vertically, just horizontally. And so now those safeties can just creep up in third downs. They're not worried about getting beat deep or even a pass attempting to get thrown deep. And so that's really creating more stress on the Bills offense. And so you're seeing a lot of these things kind of unfold. And so, the Bills got to do something about that. Even if they're not completing them, they have to look deep on these third downs because you got to take the top off the defense a little bit. And so I tweeted about that. Defenses can now focus on flooding the short and intermediate areas, knowing that the pass is likely to come out quickly, which is, again, why you're seeing kind of those guys underneath zones. Also why the Bills are seeing spies on Allen more. They know if no one is open, Allen is going to look to create on third downs. And so, again, they're not throwing deep. They're giving up a lot of big negative plays. And look at this. The average air yards to the sticks on third down. That means on third down, how far are the Bills' average attempts going in the passing game? And it's just under 1 yard. So if it's 3rd and 6, it's just above 6 yards, nearly 7 yards. They're throwing the ball past the sticks. And again, so you're getting these defenses and coverages to compress against the Bills offense. In 2024, the average air yards to the sticks on third down was 3.4. The year before that, 3.9. 2022, 5.2, 2021, 1.9, and then 2020, 1.9 as well. So again, I think that is kind of the big issue here, guys, when it comes to third downs. And yes, Ant got sacked. The offensive lineman couldn't keep him in his connection up to upright. So yeah, Ant will join us back here in a few minutes. These type of things happen from time to time, and we have to roll with it, right? We appreciate you guys still staying with us, but on offense, guys, that's what has to change. They need to figure out ways to, limit defenses from, kind of teeing off on the Bills in many ways and allowing Josh to get some space. Yes, maybe they don't put 5 out into a route, right, Ant? Maybe they don't put 5 out totally into a route, but they need to come up with ways to get the defense to back off a little bit, because only throwing 1 yard past the sticks on third down is really not threatening the defense. And that's why you saw the Texans just sitting at, their linebackers are sitting at 5 yards. They're not reacting to Cook downhill when those play action passes were coming. There's a reason why the safeties were able to switch off with a nickel on deep crossing routes, because they're not scared of the Bills offense deep, because the Bills don't have the weapons, and the Bills scheme is not scheming guys open consistently in those third down situations on top of the lack of protection and the negative plays that are happening. It's just such a one little thing leads to another, right, Ant? And then you just get that cascading effect of why the Bills have been so inconsistent on offense.
It's really frustrating to see, and apologize for my quick absence. I wanted to bring up this. I wanted to address that because I like the comment from Walter. He said Ant got sacked. The O-line couldn't keep him in his connection upright. It wasn't connection issues. I had to take care of some. That's very funny, Walter. But you're spot on with that. And we not to our credit, but we talked about this in the offseason of what the lack of verticality or stretch could do potentially. That's why we advocated for get more Curtis Samuel. He was unavailable this week, but more Curtis Samuel, more Elijah Moore. You can see even to the checkdowns that were available last year, even earlier in the year when everybody was like, Allen's taking the free profit. Some of that is still there, but you're seeing those underneath defenders just kind of sitting at depth, and they're not respecting, oh, is this guy running past me? He's not going to throw that. He's going to hit the check down. It's going underneath. And I love what you mentioned, because this is kind of the conclusion I came to as well. Like, it's sometimes there's throws there and Allen doesn't push it downfield or the O-line doesn't hold up, but conceptually or schematically, there's not a lot of just concepts that are taking that defense and threatening them. The routes that you are seeing pull coverage, it really is just more of, Curtis Samuel on the go on dagger. It's just more of a clear route. And so teams have to honor it to a degree, but especially on third down, it comes back to what we talked about initially, right, Eric? Like situation, tendency, tells everything. They know, okay, they really want to work the ball from, if it's 3rd and 6, they're really trying to work the ball from 3 yards and get some yards after catch all the way up to 7 or 8. So here's the hot spots. Here's where we condense. Here's where we flood with bodies. We also know these are the concepts they run. These are the areas we like to attack. Let's play some single high if we feel like they can't separate and go with cover 1. No, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Or let's do some cover 3 and let's bring that, buzz safety down, and let's crowd in between the hashes, in between the numbers. And we're really seeing their lack of verticality and inability to win on the outside come back to bite them. And I'm not saying this is stoke fires or put anybody in a more negative mood than they already maybe are. I just think back to all the years where the easy button was just like Diggs beating somebody one-on-one on the outside. This isn't a Diggs thing. It's just like they need to find that guy, whether it's bring him in or Allen getting confident with someone. Maybe Dalton Kincaid coming back helps that. But yeah, you're really seeing, just like you said, this snowball effect, this compounding effect really start to build and stack when it comes to the frustrations we're seeing on the offense. And tantamount to that, or maybe even above that, are some of the frustrations we're seeing on the other side of the ball. I know the offense is the focal point, especially coming out of the game against the Texans, and the defense, like we talked about in the intro and like you alluded to, kind of overall what they've been this year, being able to course correct and figure some things out and pivot. And, they were able to stem the tide a bit against Houston, but another game where we're left with some questions about the defense. And my biggest focus, as it was in the offseason, was the run defense and what's happened there, even though some of it's been expected. But Eric, a big issue has really been kind of the dip in the pass rush that we've seen the past several weeks. really kind of coinciding with some injuries up front and things really starting to take their toll on the interior, on the outside a little bit now. And it's been a significant drop and decline in pressure, as you have highlighted here in this chart.
Yeah, especially over like the last 4 games. So if we look at some splits here on this chart, so weeks 1 through 8, the Bills' pressure rate was 43.8%. That was second overall. Their sack rate was also second overall at 10.4%. But you can see over the last 3 to 4 games, that number outside of the Chiefs game, week 9, that number has plummeted. And yes, some of it is, quick game stuff and that
Mhm.
happening. But overall, we can see that decline because now in weeks 9 through 12, the pressure rate is 31.7%. That's 26 overall. And the sack rate is 3.4%, which is 28th overall. And of course, injuries play a factor there, whether it's Ed Oliver, Hoyt, Daquan Jones banged up in weeks 6, 8, and 9. Epinessa's banged up. And then obviously the guy that we're going to talk about as far as individual players within the structure of this conversation, Joey Bosa obviously hurt as well over the last 3 or 4 games. But overall, this unit, a unit that started off so strong and promising and really the cornerstone of like, oh, you know what, this draft and this offseason worked. This is where they wanted to improve. And we were seeing different guys and younger guys in there. We're seeing different structures and pass rush schemes and like cool things that we've highlighted in the film room. And then the injuries happen and that dampened our mood because now they are just struggling to get after the quarterback and affect the quarterback.
Yeah, it's been severe. It's been a severe dip, and it's I think we mentioned it last week on the show. It's really unfortunate because it's coming at a time where like Sean McDermott is doing some cool coverage stuff,
Yeah.
and it would be awesome if they still had the juice up front that they
I know.
compare with that coverage stuff. We got a little taste of what they could have been or could have done with Michael Hoyt, but that's only a 2-game sample size of what they were prior. And that's with,
Yeah.
Greg Rousseau being banged up to start the year. They were able to stem that. And Bosa really was a glue guy for them. He was as promised and as delivered with the pressures off the edge. He was like a top 10 guy in a majority of metrics, top 5 in a bunch as well. And it's been really unfortunate. And you highlighted a bunch of it, so you have Bosa, but then Epinessa's shoulder is jacked up. Obviously, Ed Oliver hasn't been able to stay in there. You've got Deion Walker is playing a ton of one-tech stuff, so his ability as a rusher is kind of stymied a bit. Sanders has been hurt. Now he's at edge. Landon Jackson, if you had any hope for him, he's done it on the shelf.
Yeah.
You got the run game just really working for offenses, so you don't get a lot of these third and longs where you can unleash Dorian or Javon Solomon in these certain roles that you want to. They are running some stunts in games with them, but it's not working at times. It's really just gotten to be this clogged mess.
Yeah.
And it's really unfortunate when I don't know if anybody's made it in the chat yet, but I see it on social all the time. You post anything like this, and the joke is like, oh, well, it's a good thing they didn't invest in the defense this past offseason. Ha, ha, ha. Oh, wait. And now you're kind of sitting there with hands on hips, looking at it again and being like, oh, boy, is it a this year issue? Is it pure injury? Is it something we have to do going forward? And it's just a really unfortunate spot for this team to be in, especially knowing what they want their identity to be defensively. And who was it who told us? I think Dean Marlowe in the film room, right? That McDermott and Bean, the defensive line is the engine of the defense, right? And they're just bang. It's hard to have a good engine when you're missing the muffler and all the other parts that connect to it.
Yeah. And like, guys are saying in the chat room, yeah, I mean, you have your second round defensive tackle playing D end. In situations, base the end. That's crazy. And so,
which also sucks for his long-term development because you want him to get
Yeah.
time on task at defensive tackle. And not only is he playing out of position, which doesn't maximize him now, but it hinders his learning at defensive tackle for the future.
And to be fair, the defensive structures that they're using him in those situations, he's more reduced. So he is playing
like
inside a little more 4-eye.
Yeah.
So it's not that far off from playing D tackle.
Yeah.
And they even did some things where they had a 5-man surface, almost like a 3-4 defense where their D tackles are also kind of playing D ends in that scheme. But overall, weeks 1 through 8 pass rushers, obviously Ed Oliver's sample was quite small, but he was as far as pressure rate goes, 12.4%, Joey Bosa 11.5%, Greg Rousseau 8.4%, Epinesa 8%, and Daquan Jones 6.3%. You guys can see that there. But if I fast forward to weeks 9 through 12, good jump for Rousseau. Great to see there. Joey Bosa has 10.6%, but again, this is week 9. This includes the Chiefs game.
Yes,
the game where he actually got injured. But then you can see even after that, with that included, that benefit of the doubt, look at the drop off now. Now you get the next guy in line is AJ Epinesa along the D line at 4.9% and Daquan Jones at 4.7%. And so the big hit obviously is Bosa. So he gets injured a little bit in that Chiefs game. And then the next game, he's got the Q-tip. He's got everything like wrapped, right? He's got that left wrist wrapped. And then the game after that, so it's Dolphins. And the game after that, the Bucks. It kind of looks like he's normal. He's got normal wrist guards, a little tape maybe under that brace. But then last week, it was even like padded up a little more. So he's obviously dealing with an injury, and it's absolutely stunted him as a defender in the Bills scheme, especially if we're talking as a pass rusher.
Yeah, you can see him just not have use of his outside hand when he's rushing off the offense's right, defense's left. And hands are important for defensive players and players in general in football to use, and it's really impacting him. And I know for him from a run defense standpoint too, even though the focus here is pass rush stuff, like I know he's crashed inside a bunch and fans are unfortunate or are upset about that. But teams are running to his side now, and he can't do anything to grab him. Like he'll make the right read, and he's just trying to almost swing his arm so he could try to impede because he can't grab, he can't pull. And
think about that, because that one big run was to his side where he leveraged with his right hand, his healthy hand, but then he couldn't do anything with his left.
Oh yeah, the Woody Marks run, yeah.
Yeah, but it also, again, from a pass rush standpoint, they can't bump him to the right side because that is your first point of contact. And so it's something we're going to talk about. It limits his availability on what side he can play, and that limits what the Bills are good at. And then again, it limits even Greg Rousseau playing on a side he technically is pretty good at as well. And so it limits not only his play, but the defensive line's play overall.
And you're sitting there going like, two questions. Like, is this an injury where if they sit him for a while, it'll heal and he'll be closer to 100%? Or is it not going to matter and he needs like off-season surgery, so you might as well play him? And two, even with him playing with one arm, he's still kind of like their best rusher, arguably, maybe. It's just so.
And who else are they going to put? I mean, even if he was out, like, who are you going to put in there?
What are you going to do? Like, it's crazy how it's like they're cursed up there. They just can't get things to work. Even when they bring guys in, they get hurt. Like, it's so fortunate or unfortunate. And another chart here, Eric, that you have highlighting kind of the injury to Bosa and the impact. And you see significant percentage changes. That week 9 game against Kansas City, at roughly midway through that game is when he banged up that wrist and look at everything after.
Yeah, 0% in week 10, 8% pressure rate in week 11, and then 8% last week. And I mean, if you look at even just time to pressure for him in weeks 1 through 8, it was 2.5 seconds. Not bad. In weeks 9 through 12 is 2.8. Again, he's a power guy. He likes to compress the pocket. And if you don't have both your hands to do that, to shock offensive tackles, he's playing, I don't want to say left hand, he's playing right-handed only, but he's playing with one hand. And so, again, aside from the run defense stuff, he cannot, like, there were plays where he's rushing from the left side and he gets into the tackle with his right hand. And normally he can forklift with that left hand. He can barely do that right now. And so again, that limits what he can do. He can't compress the pocket. He's not jolt. Remember early in the season when he was dropping guys, the right tackles back with that power and compressing the width of the pocket? He can't do that anymore.
You can't compress if you can't push the dudes. Like, your only hope then is to lean and get like a really good long arm, but that's still tough. Like, and so it's not like he's he's a cross chop guy. He's a dip and bend and run the arc type dude. It's like, it's essentially like trying to bench press without having one of your hands. Like, what do you do?
And if we look at just the alignment percentages, courtesy of Pro Football Focus, in weeks 1 through 8, he was on the left side, 46.5% had a PRP, so that pass rush productivity rating of 15.8, pretty good. Right side in weeks 1 through 8, 5.1, so not too good there. But left side, weeks 9 through 12, again, this includes the Chiefs game, he was aligning on the left side 65.3% and at a 5.3. So he dropped from 15.8 to a 5.3 pass rush productivity rate from the left side. And essentially, again, the last 3 games, weeks 10 through 12, he's only played from the left side now. So again, that limits what you can do from a play call sense, whether you're talking run or pass. And then again, it limits some of the variability that the D line has when it comes to guys like Rousseau and moving guys around that maybe some of those chess piece type guys. It's just overall, man, his dip in production because of that injury has really hampered an area of the Bills that started off so promising.
Yeah. It really, I hate to make this comparison, but especially because they're two different types of dudes, but they're brought in with the same purpose. Like Von Miller was everything as promised before he tore his ACL against the Lions. He was the closer. He was that bucket getter off the edge. He was that guy. Bosa was cruising for this defense before this wrist injury, and hopefully he can heal a little bit. We'll see what happens going forward. But like I mentioned there, I should have meant to pull the notes on it. Like but they were different, so it wouldn't apply. That's why I didn't. He was top 10 in like a heavy amount of win rate, pressure rate, pass rush productivity, not just for edges, across the entire defensive line, total pressures. Like he was what you needed him to be. You signed him to be an edge one as a pass rusher. He was. Not only that, he was like edge one of one, like top tier type of production. He looked very much like, prime Joey Bosa with the Chargers and what he was able to do there. And he goes down. I think Greg Rousseau, I like that you showed the pressure numbers for him. He was more productive in that Houston game than I thought he was off of broadcast. He had some really
100%.
good wins. Yeah, he had some good wins.
Yes.
He had mauled their left tackle at one point with a long arm and chucked him off the ground.
Yeah,
He just, It was a really good.
And not even just in the pass rush game. He was pretty freaking good as a run defender too.
Yeah, I think that gets lost kind of.
It's not pretty. It's not flashy. That's why, right?
Yeah, he's just long and strong and doesn't do unless he gets a sack, you're not really seeing it or feeling it. So the numbers speak to it in that chart that you showed. And I think, again, even in Houston, a game where, they had like a 16.1 pressure rate and no sacks, he played a little better than, as you have highlighted here, weeks 9 through 12, 11.4%. So that's nice to see from him. But he's still a guy who needs a running mate, and you don't have a running mate in Bosa. So it's almost like it's all on Groot. And then what's coming on the inside is questionable. It's just a really frustrating spot to be. And then you pair that with run defense, and it gets scary for the defense. And that's why, like, my focus or frustration really or just scaredness, anxiety lives on the defensive side, because I do think offensively, it's a matter of if you believe they can do it or not, but it really is just like you got to change some things, tweak some things, some tendency things. Like you can flip a little. They're not going to change the offensive structure overnight. They can't, but they can significantly help themselves by just pushing some different buttons, turning some different dials. Defensively, I don't think that exists, because it's really like they have to get completely healthy, and that's still a hope. And even if they get healthy, it's still a worry and still a hope. It's scary on that defensive side. And then even more scary knowing that your offense isn't humming, putting up 40 points a game. Good spot to be in.
Yeah, it's obviously to the point in the season where you are who you are, right? And so the Bills, and the thing, like, if you look at some of the stats for the defense, it's just like, God, if you guys just tackled better, like, it would make things a lot easier. And so you have the injuries, you have guys in there probably playing roles in positions that they shouldn't be playing. Like Jordan Phillips getting blown off the line of scrimmage.
I'm not trying to be rude. Jordan Phillips cannot be in on a run defense snap ever again. He can't. He can't. People use this word too much. It's malpractice. He cannot. If there is even a 0.5% chance that a team is going to run the ball, he's got to be out. He can't do it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's to the point, and even TJ struggled at anchoring at the point of attack, but it's almost like, at least get him in there. At least those reps will become valuable down the line, just swap those reps out, put TJ in there. I know he's playing reps at the end, so that kind of limits that, but the defense is who they are, and they need to find some combination of plays and players that can get these offenses into those third and longs, because they on early downs, the runs 7 a clip is just crazy. What you said, up over 4 yards post contact per rush or something like that. Now it's gone up, right? It's gone up.
I pulled some numbers for those. So before going into the Houston game, the Buffalo Bills were 32nd last in rushing yards after contact allowed per rush at 4.27. The average from 2018 to 2024 for like the worst team in the league was 3.51. No team in the last 7 seasons had been higher than 3.81 rushing yards after contact per rush. The Bills were currently at 4.27. But after the Houston game, so again, 4.27, last in the league, historically bad, they allow 4.61 rushing yards after contact per rush to the Texans. They now sit at 4.3 on the year. So worse. They've gotten worse, like you alluded to. That is, again, that's historically bad for yards after contact per rush.
Yeah, and again, you're talking about the Texans offense as well, and that
Yes,
offensive line.
like, and that's it too. Like because in my heart, I was like, okay, you know what? They stemmed the tide a little bit. This feels like the Atlanta game. They were able to kind of course correct some things, but you're course correcting some things against a team that couldn't run the ball and was playing their backup QB. And here's another stat going into that game too. The Texans on the year, this was first half only. The Texans going into the year or into that game against the Bills had a rushing success rate of like 35%. Like it was like 28 or 20. Oh, I think it was lowest in the league. Horrible. Their rushing success rate in the first half against the Bills was 64%.
Okay, so it's time for me to leave the broadcast now.
64.
You left earlier. I'm out of here.
Yeah, I would say feel free. I'll set everybody up. It's just so like that's really what it was. It was like, because the Bills run defense is bad, the Texans run offense was awful, and it's like, oh, like who can move, like the unstoppable force or the immovable object. And I thought it would be the Bills that would win out. I was like, well, Davis Mills, that run game, no. Like I know Nico is sweet, but they don't really have anything else. And they still got people moved like crazy. And it's not just one person. It's the spine collectively. It's the missed tackles. There's still some gap integrity issues where you have multiple guys in the same gap, but it's so, and I think that's what's frustrating with all of it. Similar to the offensive side, it's not just, oh, okay, well, if they get a stud receiver, they're great. Oh, okay, like if they got a stud defensive tackle, they're great. It's a multitude of things you have to fix, not only now, but then larger conversation going forward, which is scary. And that's why I was pretty frustrated going into this weekend. It kind of just sat in it. And then, yeah, what a time. I don't know how we got here. It's just crazy.
Well, if you guys are on social media and you call us haters or homers or whatever, I think this is an episode where if you actually watched it and paid attention, you'd realize that we're not homers. We're objective. And this is one of those episodes, when you're talking offense, the play concepts and play calls are awful. And the scheme, especially the protection scheme and how they handled the pass rush of the Texans was embarrassing. And then on defense, like you said, the first half, like allowing them to create that type of displacement in the run game and just run it down your throats to get that 20-point lead. Yes, they did a great job of adjusting. Like I said, that the defense typically does that.
Yes.
They do a good job of making adjustments. You want to see them get to it sooner. On offense, I can't say the same thing about them. And that is what worries me when you get against good competition on both sides of the ball, not just the Bills offense versus the Texans defense. When you get a coaching staff that can do that on both sides of the ball, can you, Joe Brady, elevate your game with Aaron Cromer to protect your asset in Josh Allen and get things on track for the receivers and tight ends and get guys into that secondary to get first downs? And it just hasn't, I haven't seen it consistently from that side of the ball, but we'll see going forward. Again, this is who they are. They just need to pull a couple different levers to just get to average or get to, especially on the defensive side of the ball, like get to average, because that, again, does help in many ways, big picture wise, when you're talking complimentary football.
And that's exactly it. Like they're just in the extremes too much. They just don't be awful. That's what it is. Like they are awful. I was just about to message you about that. Well done.
Yeah. We get to it.
They've just been so bad. And again, it's the same thing with like kind of using the, under center pass rates versus the shotgun pass rates. It's not that, they're passing too much under center or passing the majority of the time. It's that it was like they're running under center 80% of the time. And then you're running or you're passing in shotgun 80% of the time. Everything is the extremes. It's not just that, your tackling is bad. It's historically bad. It's not that they're just creating displacement against you. They're moving you like 30 gaps down the line and there's space. And it's all they're not going to be great. Just get to be like 17th. or 20th. Just don't be 32nd to
Yeah.
28th in like every metric there.
No, Kamori, we appreciate you, man. Thank you for bringing up the easy loan auto sales, making it look easy. Play the game. Of course, as bad as that episode in game was, there was one or two good things that
Man, I was
happened.
crazy hype when this hit. I was like, okay, look what they can do.
And so you see the defense obviously probably defending the tush push, and the box is loaded, but you can see they're kind of in like a man coverage type look where everyone's kind of slanted to each to one side. But the Bills again change the strength of the formation and run that counter action. They move gaps, they bring Hawes around, they bring Gilliam here, and they're able to set up really nice blocks by James Cook. James Cook does a great job of kind of slow playing it, waiting for Gilliam to kick out Al-Shaair. He gets up inside that, and then once again just turns on the Jets, gets north and south for the big touchdown against the Texans in a big moment. And again, this is a play. This is a base concept for them, Anthony. They run it every single week, and they're pretty successful as far as running it. But again, you're developing tendencies, and we saw that this play, although it hit early in the game, it was defended differently. Pretty much every other play they ran it, or every type of counter action, whether it's run or pass. I said earlier, the Texans blitzed the corner off the edge pretty much every play except for this one. And that put guys right at the point of attack. And I'm talking about that was a 4th and short play that they blew up by running this counter action. It was shut down. But this was our making it look easy play of the game. James Cook, big touchdown by him on this counter action.
Yeah, you hit it, and we talked about it earlier. You get no corner blitz from that side. It was almost like the Texans saw this happen, and they were like, never again. And they just took care of it. But this one was really nice. You even see Hawes come around, and he's expecting somebody to kick out or for it to do. And he looks left, he looks right. He's like, I don't know what to do. He adjusts on the fly. Here comes Gilliam. Bang. Gilliam picks up Al-Shaair. Cook gets skinny, and then look at Hawes just continue upfield, finds work, gets on Miles Bryant, number 25, speed 45 is impeded, and then Cook, like you said, turns on the afterburners. This was really encouraging for them to hit this core concept early on, and Kalen Bullock at number 2 there gets a little shallow in his angle as he fits. He's trying to read and see what's going on. He's not going to be able to chase down Cook because of that speed. This hit early. This gave me a lot of excitement, had a lot of confidence. And I tell you what's scary is if you take away this and then the special teams touchdown, it puts even a more perspective like how the offense kind of fared in this game. But for us, for our friends at Easy Loan, this was the Easy Loan auto sales, making it look easy play of the game. The Bills did make this look easy as James Cook had this big house call. Shout out again to the offensive line, Jackson Hawes and Mr. Reggie Gilliam. This play, of course, sponsored by our friends at Easy Loan Auto Sales. Easy Loan Auto Sales is Western New York's premier buy here, pay here car dealership with locations in Buffalo and Lockport. Regardless of your credit history, they offer the fastest buying experience around. Get approved and reserve your vehicle all from your phone, and you can start your approval at easyloanauto.com, and you could be driving today.
Hey, Zool, in the comments, I'm not going to bring it up, but I appreciate it. We appreciate you enjoying our show and joining us here in the film room today.
I always see those comments. Is that supposed to, like, what would you think that bothers us? Like, I don't, oh no, like, what kind of comment is that? Yeah, also, thank you for the engagement and the money, but also, like, start coping with what? What do you, what is that comment for?
Yeah. No, it was fun, man. I know we were very critical in this episode, but again, we saw some things in this game that were essentially a microcosm of how defenses are going against the offense and things like that. And so we wanted to point them out, and that it's not something new. There's a reason why teams are doing this, and that the Bills need to come up with ways to, again, get better pass protection for Josh. Change up some of their tendencies, some of their concepts and timing of those concepts, because again, it's good structure, bad timing and strategy when it comes to some of that stuff on offense. And so with that said, man, before we get out of here, thank you for everyone for joining us here live. I appreciate everyone joining us here. I hope that you enjoyed that episode, and for all of our insiders, we appreciate your support. And again, you guys in the Discord channel, our insiders are one of the reasons that we are able to do a lot of this stuff when it comes to the analysis, the stats, the huddle program to break down film and tell us straight things. We wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, but more importantly, you guys also drive, the topics of this show each and every week. So we thank you from top to bottom.
Absolutely. Yeah. Whatever form or fashion your support comes in, if you are a live watcher on YouTube, if you're a post live watcher on YouTube, if you listen on one of the audio platforms, if you are a super chat person, if you follow us on social and retweet and like or comment on YouTube, or you're a silent observer in all those fashions in general, or maybe you tell people in real life about, the show or the brand, whatever have you. I know there's a multitude of ways, and we know there's a multitude of ways that you folks give us support, and we are sincerely thankful and grateful for it in whatever form and fashion it comes in, especially on a week with Thanksgiving. And so we want to make sure we give that thanks. We appreciate you folks sincerely, and batten down the hatches for the rest of this Bills season. It could get scary, or they could get on a heater. You never know. We'll see what happens. We could all look back and be like, remember when the Bills were so bad in the end of November and then they won the Super Bowl? Man, that was a crazy time. We'll see what happens for this team going forward. And yeah, we wanted to present this episode breaking down what happened in Houston and knowing that those are the extremes because of, especially on the offensive side of the ball for the Bills, because of how the Texans defense is built, how good they are. But we also wanted to put it within the backdrop and the landscape of what this Bills team is, what's been giving them some problems, and we'll see what they can be going forward. And speaking of going forward, Eric, anything on your mind as we say goodbye to the people here?
No, once again, just thanks, guys. We appreciate you guys tuning in. It's not easy putting this together in a short amount of time. We appreciate everyone joining us and all the engagement in the chat room.
Yeah, thank you very much. We appreciate you folks. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a tremendous Thanksgiving. If you will do some crazy things with your turkey, be safe. If you're a turkey deep fryer, I know some things can go sideways. I've seen it happen to family. And enjoy your turkeys, enjoy your food. Hope everything comes out good. There's some good football on Thursday. There's also some Black Friday football action. If you're a shopper on Black Friday, good luck, Godspeed, God bless you. And enjoy the rest of your week. We appreciate you folks for tuning in. And we hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. Have a happy Thanksgiving. We will see you when we see you. Godspeed. And as always, thank you very, very much to Mr. Joe DeRosa. Almost forgot that. Our man behind the scenes, producer. Even though he stabbed me in the back and didn't get one pie pizza that time that he was up here in Buffalo, he's still a good dude, hooking us up all the time, and we appreciate the hell out of him. For myself, Anthony Prohaska, for Eric Turner, this will do it for us in the film room. Godspeed. And as always, go Bills.